Yeah, I've always had a kind of interest in photography because as I grew up, I was very much an outdoors person. I spent a lot of my time out in the Peak District, which is right on my doorstep, and that's really where kind of my passion came from. Kind of I bought a camera just to kind of see what it was all about. So I used to go out and spend my times on the hills taking photos of the landscapes. And it wasn't until really when my niece was born, I'd kind of seen this newborn market sort of surfacing in the UK. And I was really interested and drawn in the art side of it because it's so huge. You can do so many different things. We're in this industry. So that's what really kind of got me interested. And then my niece was born, she's coming up to 4 years ago. And she was my little test subject, really. It was a second-hand Nikon D60. I got it for like £150 or whatever it was. It was very much to kind of test the water, to see if I enjoyed it. Because I always knew if I'd have picked it up, I'd then kind of move on to something a little bit better as I progressed. So yeah, I very much moved up on my kit that way and kind of did the sensible thing and sort of didn't really spend much money on it. There's the whole thing, which brand you go with and everything, and it was just pure luck. It was just, it was on a forum. It wasn't even a photography related forum. Just one popped up, and it was just timing, I suppose. It was right. I thought, I know nothing about it, so it's as good as anything, and I'll see where I go from there. And from there, it's just, I think once you get involved in a system, you get used to it. So that's very much why I've kind of stuck with Nikon. Yeah, it's interesting because Yorkshire's a massive county because it's divided up into the four regions, north, south, west and east. I'm in the south of Yorkshire, so I'm right on the border between Yorkshire and Derbyshire, and it's not even too far from Nottinghamshire. But then again, as you move up to North Yorkshire, it's such a beautiful countryside. You've got all the coast as well, so it's a real nice place to kind of discover and kind of have a wander about. But it's really good as well, and for me, in a client side of things, because I'm really close to a network of motorways. So it's only an hour from Nottingham, and Manchester's only an hour away. So I'm really linked to some really big cities as well, which has been a big help for me. I was a project engineer ever since I left school. I did my work experience there. I got invited back to work over the summer. I kind of enjoyed it. I never really knew what I wanted to do with my life. All the way throughout school, I was never really set on anything. I wasn't one of these kids who said, yeah, I'm going to be a fireman, or I'm going to join the police force, or I want to be a doctor or whatever. It's just, I was very much easy to kind of go with the flow of it. The job offer came up, so I started on an apprenticeship. I must have been there for a good 6 or 7 years, I think it was. And I worked my way up to being one of the project engineers with a set of really experienced guys. But things didn't work out, and it was meant to be. Moved on from that job, and I fell into this one. So yeah, it's been a real interesting journey. I think it really has helped me though, because I've got a lot of skills from being an engineer, and I think that's why I've grasped the technical side of things much easier, because that's very much how I've been brought up in my working life. It was to understand, because I did a lot of fault finding and testing and that kind of thing. So the technical side of things really made sense to me when I moved in. And I think business side of things, it's really often forgotten, because photography is such a creative job and industry. We have such a passion to create artwork, and we sometimes forget a little bit that we're in it for a business. We've still got to make a living from it. It's nice to not have the pressures sometimes, but if you want to be serious about it, you do have to have a bit of a business head on you as well. I can remember, I think it was Sandy Putch. I remember looking back to her work, I think she was the one who very much most sticks out in my mind. And then as things kind of grow and you open up into that world and you see a few of the more kind of photographers, and it was that style of it, but she was the one who was like the famous one at the time, and that's where I very much started to pick things up from. I don't know, sometimes yeah, I get it asked quite a lot, but like I said, I saw newborns as such a good way of being able to really play on the art side of things, because even though everyone says it's just a sleeping baby, but your canvas is wide open with it. You can do whatever you want as far as your imagination goes. I think sometimes you've got to get out of the view it's not just a sleeping baby, and I think that's what really drew me to it. And then being able to capture these really precious moments for parents. So that's what I love. I love that I've created a piece of art, and it's not just an object. It's someone's pride and joy. So I think that's what I really enjoy with it. I think it's very much what works for you. I don't think there's a right and a wrong setup, because I think our businesses is very much a reflection of ourselves. If you feel a studio's too sterile and hostile for you, that's your choice. But if you feel you can make a studio space into whatever you want it to be, and create it, then that's something you can do. But for me, I very much like being at home. I get a lot of people who say I'm really patient with my newborns, but that helps me with being in my home environment. I don't feel like I've got any pressures that I've got to like get off in an hour's time. We need to speed things up because I'm going to hit traffic on my way back or things like that. So for me, it feels very comfortable being in a home environment, and I think a lot of my clients get that as well. Because especially a lot of my clients, it's the first week, it's often the first trip out. It's often the first trip out of the home since getting home from the hospital. So sometimes I think it can be a little bit anxious for them to go somewhere that's completely different. So I think they take some comfort in coming back into a home environment where they can sit down, they can put their feet up, they can have a cup of tea, they can relax and just enjoy it. I'm quite lucky because I've got an open space where my living room and dining room all joins. It's one open space. So I've managed to kind of move a few things around and set up in there. But my setup's always changing. I'm not afraid to say this is what it is and this is what it's going to stay like. So I'm very flexible in that manner. It can be a challenge because where I live, it's an ex-mining community, so it was very much that was very big, and obviously that's all kind of closed down now. So you've got to be smart. You've got to be smart with your marketing, and you've got to maybe broaden yourself up a little bit, and not just focus on your immediate area. If people like your work and they like you, they're going to travel. I get people travelling 2-3 hours to come for sessions, which is a big ask for someone who's just had a new baby. But there's the people out there they appreciate your work. They'll come, and they'll invest in it. Prep's so important. It really is. If you don't get your prep right, it can be the big difference between having a comfortable session and a session that's a bit more difficult. The big thing is it's really hard to tell a new parent to try and keep the newborn baby awake for a couple of hours before the session. But it makes a big difference. If your baby's been sleeping all morning, then you're just not going to get them to sleep to be able to get them posed and do the real cute stuff that you see. So for me, it's huge to be able to emphasise how important it is for parents just to keep them more active in the morning. I know how tough it is to keep a newborn awake, but it's just as much about keeping them active, even if they're asleep. Just play with them, give them a bath, just interact. So there's that interaction there to keep them a bit alert, even if they are asleep, because then the mind's still kind of going. And then when you bring them in, I either ask parents to feed just before they leave, or aim the feeds for just as they arrive. Because again, you kind of get them in that milk drunk state, and they get really sleepy and things like that. But again, going back to my clients travelling a long distance, I appreciate as well if you've got a 2-3 hour car journey, because I don't think any newborn stays awake in a car. So yeah, it's really key in the prep, in that side of things. But yeah, and then when they come, they often tell me how comfortable and relaxed it is. Yeah, you really want a nice, soft, soothing music going on. I tend to play a lot of classical music because I don't want words to kind of be distracted, because then you end up focusing on things. So for me, I really enjoy the kind of classical music because it's really soft, it's calming. I feel it's such a calm environment when I come in for a session, because I use flash as well. I'm not really natural light because the room I'm in is quite dark, so everything's much darker anyway, and you've just got this, I've got a huge softbox, so it gives off just such a happy light, and for me that's what makes it feel really cosy and calming. It's like being in front of a fire on a winter's day. I kind of didn't have any option, especially in the UK as well. It's tough because even on a day like today, it's just grey, it's dull, it's overcast. There's very little natural light coming in, so it's a huge challenge. But for me, once you really get to know flash and master it, you can create whatever look you want. So it's not a case of, I love natural light, I'm only going to use natural light. It's not to say if you love natural light that you can't use flash and make it look like natural light. It's the end of the day, light's light. But yeah, and kind of going back to me putting thought into it, I think it very much just comes from, it's a kind of reflection of me and my personality. All my work, I think, shows very much my passions in life. With the tones I use and the colouring, it's just an extension of me. So I try not to think about it too much. I don't try and fit in with what's in fashion, and I've got to shoot like this because this is what's popular. I think if you really place a bit more trust in your passions and your desires, it shines much more through in your work, and you can really see it when someone's passionate about something. It just shows, it really does. Yeah, it was amazing, yeah. Kind of took me by surprise because I didn't really start entering until April either. So I kind of had to play a bit of catch up with it. So yeah, it was real nice to kind of take that. Because the big thing with competition, you see a lot of people see work and they try and replicate it or whatever, because that's what won an award a couple of months ago. And from a judge's point of view, if they've already seen it, you've lost that impact, and impact's a big part of scoring a good award. So I think this is where if you shut off from the other world of looking at other people's work and try and look inside yourself and really find what you're passionate about and kind of go with the flow of that, I think you're onto a much better kind of course with it. Every session varies. I tell parents all the time, it's completely up to a baby's pace. I never rush it. I don't want to feel like I'm pushing people and things like that. But sometimes if you get, it very much depends when a baby turns up. They can be fast asleep and you can fire straight into your session, or sometimes you might be sat there for 30, 40 minutes just having a chat while baby settles down a little bit. But on average, my sessions are anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. It's very rare my sessions go longer. But I think that's down to a bit more experience. The more experience you get, you start to be able to read babies much better. Because for me, I think after a certain time point, it's like restarting again, because they've had their nice deep sleep, and then they've come back out of that cycle. And I think when your sessions are going into the 5-6 hour mark, it's because it's like you're doing 2 sessions. So for me, I don't want to keep them that long, because I'm very aware of it. You don't want parents sitting about all day either, because the room can get quite toasty at times, and I think everyone's got a little bit of tolerance of how much they can take. So yeah, it can be tiring as well. So I'm conscious of that, and I don't want it to lead over too long. So I like to keep it between an hour and a half to 3 hours if I can do. Yeah, typically this is a good reason why I try and get babies in the first 2 weeks, because dads tend to be on parental leave as well. And I think it's that moment as well. I think mum wants dad to be there, because it's not just a photo shoot, it's their first moment together as a family. You're capturing a moment, it's not just a picture that's on the wall. And this is why I think it's so important to create a good experience, because you could take the nicest photograph ever, but if parents have had a real bad experience, when they see that photograph on the wall, that's the first thing they're going to remember. Because it's lovely, but I can remember how much of a nightmare it was. And I'll get dad to come and spot. I try and let mum kind of relax and put her feet up, because I know it's difficult for mums, and they very much should enjoy it and enjoy the time, so it's nice to get dads involved. And I think that's where, from my point of view, with being a male, dads really connect with me, and I end up teaching parents a lot of like things and little tricks to help them kind of settle the babies. And I get dads who come back afterwards, and when they come back for the viewings, said, "Oh, I can't believe how amazing it was. You've been a massive help for me." She was like, "Yeah," she was up crying the other night. And I managed to settle her off again, because of what you taught me in your sessions. So yeah, I do. I get a connection with parents on that side of things as well. It's all about confidence. Once you're confident with it, you get much more comfortable, because babies are so sensitive. They'll pick up on anxiety. They'll pick up if you're stressed. So it's really important to be calm and really relaxed yourself. And you see babies calm and relax into it as well. So it's a big thing. Yeah, well, you very much start off, like there's a lot of videos out there and things like that, where you can kind of get the ideas first, but getting hands-on training with an experienced photographer is a big difference. My work changed overnight when I went and got proper hands-on training. Because then, and a lot of them, they'll teach you how to handle babies, how to settle and calm, and sort of the right ways of being able to make sure a baby's comfortable, make sure a baby's safe, you're not putting them under stress and things like that. It's really important that you can get that. And I think that's where it was a little bit different from me, because most newborn photographers tend to be mums themselves. It's how I think a lot of them kind of get into it. So for me, it was interesting to kind of learn that side of things, and it's a big part of it. I've really got into my wrapping at the moment. I'm really loving doing floor work, because I think it's good to have a few things in your arsenal.
Just explain that wrapping.
Yeah. You can get different bits of material. You can get different kinds. There's like rayon, which is really stretchy. You can get like cheesecloth, which is a bit more like my scarf. It's a bit tighter. And it's literally, you can style your wraps in different ways, so you can completely wrap them up. So arms and legs are tucked in, which is really good if you've got an unsettled baby. Because it's really good to do awake shots with them as well. Because what tends to happen when you get an awake baby, arms and legs tend to go everywhere, and it's really hard to control. So when you get them nice and snug, you can get those really beautiful awake shots, and you see the nice bright big eyes, and it really calms them down, because it's like bringing them back to when they was in the womb. They feel so safe and comfortable, and you see how they just change from being so wriggly, and then it's like and they really calm down. So it's nice to to be able to have that, and then you can use it for more in your styling. You can have your more open wraps, so where you'd wrap all the way around baby and make them look nice and snug. You bring feet and hands up together. So for me, I've really enjoyed that, and you can get so much out of your shots. You can really work each shot. So for me, that's how I now start my sessions. I start on my floor work, I'll have them wrapped, because it's my safety work in a sense. Because if you get a baby who's not quite as settled, you can get 10, 15 shots from a couple of wraps, and that's it, you're safe then. If everything from there on is a bonus in my eyes. Because if baby was really unsettled and you've got to call it a day, I want to be able to give mum and dad something. I don't want to try and work on a difficult pose to start off with and waste an hour. So it's very much me working safely, getting shots in bag for mum and dad, and then we can try and be a bit more kind of creative and a bit more experimental with it. Basically, I use different textures and things like rugs are real nice to use, a real nice kind of flocati rug. So that's like your base set, and then you can use little balls that's under the rug if you just want to keep it real simple and it be all about that. Or this is when you can start to bring other props in, like your round baskets, and then I work much on layers. I like to build my textures and colours that complement each other. So I'll use very much naturals, I'll use wools, a lot of kind of blankets and things like that. And I build up my layers. So it's very much babies on the floor and we shoot from above. So that's what I mean by floor work. Because once you've done the work in getting them wrapped, if you select your wraps well, you can have your different colour schemes already set out, and it's literally a case of picking baby up out of one, and you can change kind of accessory wise, where you can maybe pop a hat, a bonnet, a headband on and things like that and mix it up. And this is where the safety thing comes in, because if you set it out before your session, that I know I can get so many shots from this, so many shots from that, and you can really work around your subject as well, because you're not just forced to shoot from one direction, because you can shoot from above, you can come inside, you can get macro shots. It's really good for details to get like the eyelashes, the feet and hands. You can like get the short lit back, like kind of rimlet kind of effect with it as well as you work around your subject. So for me, it's a real nice thing to explore. I don't think I'd want to know. There's a picture on my Instagram feed where I got all my baskets out to kind of as I was sorting them out, and I think there was something like 50 baskets there.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we've all got a problem as newborn photographers. For me, I like things that are new. I like things that are unique. I like things that's had a different use in a past life. Because I want my work to be unique. I don't want someone else to go and have that same prop. So for me, I very much, every time I go somewhere new, I'm exploring, see if there's a little quirky shop, old antique stores, the kind of reloved things where you see there's lots of little shops out there, and the more kind of quirky shops you can find, the better for me. Even like when I'm on holiday, I've been down to St Ives in Cornwall, and I've found some of the most quirkiest shops. You just pop in and you see it and you can't help yourself. But yeah, and one of the big things is when you're out and about and you're looking for props is you're always putting your arm in it, because you know that's the length of a baby. So if your arm fits in it, yeah, you can fit a baby in it. It's funny because I think fashions move so quick in the newborn industry. It really does. It can change as quick as a couple of months. But I'm seeing it going back to much more neutrals now. I'm seeing a lot of people who's loving shooting neutrals, so creams, even white. I think white's starting to come back, make a bit of a comeback into fashion. The greys, soft browns and things like that, it's very much neutral. But then again, there's some really fantastic photographers out there who use colour so well. And I think sometimes it's nice to maybe, if everyone's going one way, just to switch
Yeah.
and go the complete opposite, because it takes people by surprise. When people look through websites and they're looking for work, if it's all the same, the one person who's doing something different is going to stick out. So sometimes I think it's good to go against the grain as well as kind of keep true to your passions, but maybe think of different ways you can take it rather than just go in with what everyone else is doing. I think the big thing is parents place a lot of trust in me. They see my work and they're very much trusting in me, and for me to do what I do best. I get the odd prop where mum and dad will bring something. I think it's really nice when they bring something that's meaningful. They might bring an old bonnet that was theirs from a child or the grandmother's, and that's real nice to use because it's really significant. I've had people who've brought teddy bears and things like that, which was their teddy as a newborn. So some of them are 30, 40 years old, some of these props they bring, and that I really love to see because it's got meaning to it. It's not they've just gone out and bought something because they think it'd look cute. Yeah, of course it is, yeah, because it's you're still working with a live subject and a very precious and delicate one at that. Safety is always paramount. You've got to put that safety first. I'd never risk taking a shot if mum or dad thought it was cute, if I ever thought baby'd be in danger. Yeah, because it's that precious, it's this little precious bundle of joy. And you've got to look after it. Life is so precious. I think this is a big thing with kind of photography though, because we'll see shots and we don't always know the work that's gone in to kind of get it. So the safety part of it's really key, and I think it's always good to kind of reiterate, if you do a shot like that, to explain to people that your baby's not being put in danger. Like say with the froggy, there's always been supporting hands in there, making sure baby's safe. Or when they're dangling from a tree branch, they're not dangling from a tree branch. It's all been superimposed and things like that. And I've had it myself. Well, I've done I've done a few composites this last 12 to 18 months where I've done outdoor shots, because it's lovely if you live in one of these beautiful states in America where it's nice and sunny all year round and you get the nice weather. But here in the UK we just don't have that weather. I love autumn. I love the colours and everything about it. So I very much wanted to bring that into my work and show that environment. But obviously you can't take a newborn baby outside. So I've done it myself when I've composited a newborn into an outdoor setting, and some people don't always read when you post things. And I've had people thinking I've taken a newborn baby out there into woodlands in kind of November, and
Yeah.
and they think baby's been left there to freeze, but it's not always what it appears. Sometimes there's a lot more going on to a photograph than what you just see. The thing is, when you ask someone else to be a spotter, because they're not like us, they don't know, you've got to give you 100% attention and focus on it. So you've really got to make it a job for them. So I don't just say to dad, can you sit there and keep an eye on? Because people, they'll look and they go, oh, baby's fine. And then the phone starts to creep out and things like that. So it's really important to give dad a job. This is why you say to him, say, look, baby's here, I want you to place your hand over the top. I'm going to count you down. After 3, you're going to lift your hand up. We're going to take the shot. And as soon as my flash is fired, I want you to bring your hand back down again. And I don't want you to keep your eyes off. I want you to keep your eyes on baby at all times. And you've got to really put that importance on them, that it's really precious, it's your child, and now I'm handing this responsibility over to you. You've got to do this job with 100% focus and concentration. I'm not going to let you sit there and play on your phone, because if you do, then then you're going to get shouted at. Because it's important, and I think once you get that importance across to a parent, they understand it and they realise it. So it's very much about managing them as well as you. If you just say, can you go and sit over there and watch, there's no importance on it, so they don't understand how important it is. You've got to get across just how important that job you're giving them is. This is where I'm completely different. I never push anything on my clients. When I've done them shots, they've very much come to me. They've said, oh, I'd love it. Can we get a skin-on-skin shot with dad and baby? So I very much leave it in their hands. It's what they feel comfortable with, because I don't ever want a client to feel uncomfortable. Even if you get someone who's maybe works out a lot, but you still get some who are not comfortable with showing that. So for me, it's very much what they're comfortable with, and I never force or push anything onto my clients. It's just a given. It's more on the clients. I think sometimes clients get mortified, and they're so apologetic. So I'm really sorry, I can't believe it's happened. But for me, it's just another part of the job. Yeah, the amount of times I've been weed on and pooed on, you just get on with it. It's just one of those things. It's not an issue for me. Everything gets cleaned, everything gets washed. It's not a case of, it's like the end of the world if a baby pees on something. Yeah. Well, as I've said, I'm very much big in my studio lighting, and this year I've moved across to Broncolor. It was very much a decision where I had to really think about, because for me it's an investment. It's not something that I'm looking for what's the cheapest thing I can get. I'm very much looking to buy something that's going to last me 15, 20 years. So I very much invested my money in something that's real good quality. And I've been absolutely over the moon with how Broncolor have been. They've been so helpful. They came out to show me the kit. Walked me through it all. Recently, one of my flashes went when I was actually teaching, and there was only around the corner. Literally, they replaced it there and then for me. And things like that are usually not in warranty, and they're so helpful whenever you get a problem. They really want to put it right. So for me, it's not just a product I've bought into an whole ethos of that kind of thing. And it's great kit, it really is. I use a really big rectangular softbox now. So it's 1.8 by 1.2 meters. So it's pretty big, but it gives me that quality of light that I want. It's nice and soft, but it's so versatile for such a big softbox. Everyone kind of sees it and goes, I'd never fit that in my space, but it's surprising how versatile it is and how you can use it in tight spaces, things like that. You can get a lot of contrast out of it if you want, or you can get that nice soft airy look to make it look like natural light, because all natural light is at the end of the day is a big window, and that's exactly what I've got. I've got a big window where I can choose where I want to put it and how much light I want to come through that window. So yeah, I've really loved working with flash and the gear I use now in that. Yeah, it's really good. It's their new monoblocks they've just brought out. It's called the Cirrus. I use the 400S, because the big thing with newborn light for lighting equipment for newborns is, I think what a big mistake is a lot of people make is they go out and buy really powerful lights, and we can't get the power down enough to work at the apertures we want to. But the real good thing with the Cirrus is it's got such a huge power range. So it's a 400 watt light at its maximum, but it goes right down to 2 watts. So I can shoot as wide open as 1.4 at ISO 100 if I want to. So it gives me a great kind of and they're really versatile in that sense. But yeah, they're a good bit of kit, and they're not too bad priced. And for what they are, you're getting a lot of technology in with this kit. So for me, it's been a fantastic investment.
How do you trigger those?
They've got their own little receiver, Broncolor, and provide their own trigger with it as well. So you don't have to worry about it. You just pop your trigger on the light and it talks to all your lights. But what's really good with these new units is they set up their own Wi-Fi network. So there's an app that you can get for it as well, where you can control everything from your phone, an iPad, a tablet. You can control each light individually. It sets up its own network, so they're all colour coded, so you can see visually. You can see that one's set to green, that one's set to blue, and you can change your power settings, all the different modes, right from where you're shooting from, which for me is massive, because if I need to work quick, say if I've got a baby in and I bring a sibling in and I want to change my power from shooting at 2.8 to 5.6, I don't have to get up and change my powers on my light or have to compromise and adjust my ISO. I can literally bring out my phone, flick up the power, and I'm on with it. And I know I can trust in the system, because I know when I move it up a stop, I know it's a stop, because it's built so well. So I place 100% trust in the system, and it just allows me to get on with my job and do that. So it's been such a cool feature to have with the lights as well. And a light meter is a big thing when I teach, everywhere I go, and it's one of the first questions I ask. It's like, have you got a light meter? Most people tend to say no. But I find light meters so important, especially if you've got multiple light setups, because you can't really guess. You don't know what one light's doing in reference to another, because output can change based on many things, like your modifier you've got on, how far out it is from your subject, even things like sticking a grid. It can reduce half a stop to a stop of light, and how would you know that unless you've got something that's telling you exactly what it is? So yeah, my light meter's a big part of my kit. And I almost cried recently because it accidentally fell into a river while I was out on a shoot, but it survived. I was well happy that my light meter survived a swim in the lake. So I use this Iconic 758, I think it is, which is like the kind of top of the range one. But the reason I got that is because it's so good for outdoor work. Because what I tend to find with kind of cheaper models is it struggled to pick flash up in bright sunlight, whereas the 758, it's no problem. It'll pick it up in any conditions. So it's been a vital piece of kit in my tool bag. I think what the big thing is it's such a big kind of support network. Because what you'll tend to find is if you're going through a bit of a tough time or you've got an issue, because it's so big, someone's been there, someone's already had that experience, and it's a real friendly place to kind of lean on when you need that help. But it's the same with any organisation. I mean, you'll only get out of it and what you put into it. So I think it is very much about finding something and what you're happy with as well. But for me, the Guild have been really good, helping me kind of push on. And like the awards last year was really good because it gave me that bit of push and that bit of drive to keep continual pushing and improving. But yeah, it's such a great support network. Yeah, like I said, I think the big thing is the business side of things, because we very much kind of forget about it. We kind of forget we're here to run a business as well. So yeah, that was a steep learning curve. Being able to not only take a decent photo, but to then be able to sell it and get it to a market that wants it. But it's been a challenge I've enjoyed, and I think it's one that's really paying off now as well. So yeah, as long as you put the work in, I think, yeah, and whether I think you'll be all right. Yeah, it's been really good to teach and give back. I really love how I can share my experiences, my knowledge, and pass that on to other people, and then really see them shine. I really love it when someone listens, they take it on board, and they run with it. They don't just kind of do exactly what I've done. They put their own spin on it. And they be true to themselves. and they go and create their own work. I really love to see that in people. Again, it was just that kind of natural progression. It just felt right that I could then start to give back, because I've learnt an awful lot from other photographers. So it very much felt right at the time. So yeah, I mostly offer one-to-ones in people's own environment. So I come and travel to them, whether it's be a studio or whether you work from your home, because I find you'll get much more out of it, because you can work in your own space, your own equipment, your own kind of props and things like that, and we can show and for you to get the most out of your own space and environment. I also do the odd workshop of my own, but I've recently joined the newborn workshops with Maddie Rogers and Shelley Wall. So I'm coming along this year with those ladies who are really talented. They really know the stuff with the posing and the safety side of things, and I'm there to bring a new dynamic to their workshops. So that's really, really exciting this year. It's exciting for us all because it's something new, something different. We're not only running the newborn side of it, we'll be touching in on kind of maternity and maybe the older kids as well. So yeah, it's going to be really different this year. I very much like a mix of my work. I shoot the odd wedding. I don't tend to shoot a lot. I kind of keep my weddings to a kind of minimum. And I photograph maternities, older kids, things like that. But in a personal kind of sense, I really love to kind of shoot work for myself, where it'll be much more conceptual, a bit more ideas in mind, where I get to express myself, and it's also helped me kind of develop as well, because there's no pressures with a client. It's very much your own ideas, and you can just shoot whatever you want. So I've loved being able to do that over the last few years as well. I use a mix of Lightroom and Photoshop. So Lightroom's very much there to organise things and batch my work to begin with, and then Photoshop's there for me to put my stamp on it. I'm not someone who spends days in Photoshop trying to fix things. I very much believe on getting things as right as you can in camera, and Photoshop's there to put your stamp and style on it. So it's very much a case of yeah, I'm putting my own stamp on it with Photoshop. Yeah, it's just how it is sometimes. Unfortunately, you do get some newborns who come in and they're maybe going through the stage of maybe a touch of baby acne. And again, it's very much respecting mum's wishes, because it's not a permanent feature. So a lot of mums want that removing. And there's no quick fix for it, unfortunately. You've got to put the work in. I had one client recently, and she was covered, bless her. Her face was covered in wee little spots. So there was a lot of time that was invested in that. But the client was really appreciative for and for that work I've done. And it was nice to be able to give that to that client, and they couldn't even tell. Yeah, it's very much, I kind of got my own flowing processes that I do. To be fair, I'm not very action heavy. The only thing I do use is portraiture, just to take a bit of the edge off it. I find it works quite nice if you're quite gentle with it. And I think it's always knowing when knowing when enough's enough, and not kind of overstepping it a little bit, because it's nice. I like to keep things all looking very natural and that kind of look and feel in my work. So it comes with experience. I think sometimes you've got to make the mistakes to see where you've gone wrong, and I think this is why it's really good to keep your old work, because you can look back at it and you can think, wow, yeah, I can see where I went wrong, and you can see how far you've come. So yeah, but it's one of those things where it takes a bit of time. Once you start to train your eye and you start to see when enough's enough. No, everything's in person because I want that. I want that personal touch again. And it's much better if they've got any questions or if they need any help or guidance with things they want for the wall. Because it can be very hard if you're on a website and you're looking at a screen and you can't see some products, you don't know what it's going to look like. So for me, it's very nice to get them to come back in, and it's all a part of that experience. It's the next step in it. So they come back, they'll view their images, they can relax, they can have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and then they can very much get to choose what they want. They can see the things up in the wall, and this is where, for me, working in a home environment works really well, because I've got images of my nieces and nephews on my walls as finished pieces, so they don't have to go back and go, I wonder what this would look like above this fireplace, because it's there right in front of them. They can see it as a finished product, and I think it really helps. I've got my standard range, which is like my wall art, which is my like standard frames and acrylics, but then I've kind of gone and created a real special product range, which I kind of call my fine art range, which has been really, really popular. It all gets printed on real nice fine art papers. It gets mounted specially in select framed ranges, and I use non-reflective UV glass, so it's there as a finished piece. It's almost like kind of museum piece. If you was to go and if you was to go in a gallery and buy a piece of artwork, it's the same level of standard, and that's what I want to give my clients. I want them to have something really, really beautiful that it's going to stay on the wall for 15, 20, 30 years. Because I think that's what it's about. It's nice to have that artwork on your wall of your own child and view it that way. So yeah, that's been really, really popular for me this year. Yeah, I've been really, really impressed with the print foundry this year. I've been to a couple of suppliers for like my fine art prints, and it's been hard work, but the print foundry absolutely nailed it from the first order, and the level of service you get with them as well. They're really good guys over there. I mean, if you ever get the chance to chat to Renato, really do. He's such an interesting guy. He's so passionate about the stuff he does, and he's looking for new and interesting ways. So if you've got any ideas yourself that you think you'd like as a product, he'd be more than willing to listen to you. So yeah, those guys over there are really good. And I've been impressed with Folio Albums as well. They're a local company to me. They're in Barnsley. I've been really lucky to have been invited down to their workspace. Because again, Stuart's a guy who's very passionate about the things he does. As a photographer himself, he very much knew what he wanted, and he created a product that he thought was missing in the market. But again, it's the attention to detail these guys provide. So yeah, I've been really impressed with their work as well. Me personally, I have prices from, so it gives people an idea of a ballpark. People know I'm not super cheap, so it's very much giving people an idea to begin with, but I want them to come to me and ask the questions, because I don't want them to get shocked when they see a big figure on, say, like on the digitals, because you can't always get across why they're worth that much. So for me, I very much like clients to then get in touch, and I get to chat more about, on a personal level, what's involved in the sessions and things like that, and they get a much better understanding of why things cost, what they cost. So for me, that works for me. But again, I think it's very much finding something you're comfortable with and what you feel works for yourself. But then again, I don't want ever anyone kind of coming to me and not being aware and then having that big shock, because I don't want to put them in a situation where they feel uncomfortable because they maybe can't quite afford it, and they feel a little bit silly. I don't want people to feel like that. I want them to be very much aware of what it costs. So for me, it's important to be open and transparent with my pricing, because like I said, I don't want anyone to be in an awkward situation. Yeah, I mean, it can be massive. I have people spend from 500 to a couple of £1,000. So it very much depends on kind of what they want to invest in. But I like to think I can cater for people who don't have a couple of £1,000 like I'm just lying about to spend. So I've got some products that are a little bit cheaper at just a couple of £100 where they can still come. They can have that experience, they can get some images, and they can get some nice little products to be able to take home. So I think I do cater for people who really passionate and want something but maybe can't quite stretch to a big budget, like someone who wants big frames on the wall and things like that. Yeah, I think it's really important to be confident with your own pricing. You've got to have that self-belief in yourself, because if you're sat across from a client and you don't believe you're worth what you charge, they're going to see that. But when you feel very comfortable and confident in what you charge, a client's going to be comfortable with it. I think it's hard. It is hard to sit there sometimes and say that number to them. But if you can say it with confidence and belief that you're worth it, they don't bat an eyelid. They're just like, yeah, I love it. I'm happy with that. And especially if you make it, if you're open and transparent with it in the beginning, so there's no real shock there for them because they already expect it. But clients can pick up if you're not confident, and it's about making them feel like they've made the right choice and not like you're ripping them off. Because it makes a big difference. I think if you're a little bit unconfident with it and you don't believe in it, they might start to feel like you're kind of ripping them off. Add value in your products. If you want to sell prints, I have no problem with selling prints, but make them nice, make them a product, mount them, put them in a nice bag, a nice box, present them nicely, because it adds the value to the product. And then you're not just selling whatever price you charge for a print in a little plastic bag. They're getting a nice product. It's a mix of a lot of things. I think it's still really big and strong to get kind of good referrals, because it's tough, but you've first got to try and get that client to begin with. I think your website's a real strong place where you should concentrate on, because it's like a first point of contact for a lot of people. That's when they first get to meet you as such, they get to see your work. That's your first chance to shine and impress. And then for me, what's worked quite well is I've attended some baby shows where people can come and they can get a chance to chat with you. It's really relaxed, it's informal, and you're opening yourself up to other markets, especially if you choose a show that's maybe a little bit further away from your target market than what you think, because you'll surprise yourself just how far people will travel. I think it's really important because, again, it makes them aware of what's happening, what's going on. It's setting that expectations from a very early point. So yeah, it's massive to be able to give them a lot of questions and things, because it is such an investment. It's not like we kind of go out and we're buying a new pair of shoes where we might walk into the first shop and go, yeah, they're nice. We're kind of newborn photography and a lot of photography. It's such an investment. It's something you really love. And I think when you're investing a lot of money like that, you like to look and you like to get to know the product you're buying, the person you're buying it off, because it's as much as a service as it is a product people are buying. And I think it's really, really important that they can get a feel for you as well. I don't know, they've all got the pluses and minuses. Like, Facebook's such a huge thing, but it can be quite draining as well at times. But I've really loved, if I'm to flick through something, I like to flick through Instagram, because it removes all the rubbish as such. And you can very much tailor it to what you want. Even though they've started to bring ads in a little bit, I don't find them intrusive. and you can select the content you really want to see. And it's nice to be able to see, like, if you're looking for newborn photography, you can search. And you can spend hours flicking through and seeing what people get up to. And you get to be introduced into a lot of new people and other businesses and photographers and artists who you might not have found. I mean, I've had a couple of clients who've come through Instagram where they've stumbled across you and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you'll find clients in all walks of life. Yeah, I've got my various favourites for different reasons. Like I touched earlier on about how I've done my outdoor composites. I really loved shooting them because it was almost like scratching an itch to see if I could do it, and I was really proud when I pulled it off. So I've got that one hanging on my wall. That's my big sample image. So that was very proud in that. Probably another one is the one that won me Newborn Image of the Year, and with a girl in the same year. It was Dad and Baby together, and why I think that one's so special to me as well is and the little girl who came for that session, I think it was the day afterwards, she got took into hospital. She actually had a really bad liver. So she spent the first kind of 12-13 months in hospital, and she was really lucky that her mum's twin sister was a match donor. So she managed to kind of have the operation she needed. So that for me sits really high, and I thought it was so special and significant that was the image that won me the Newborn Image of the Year, because it's been such a special client. And then probably one of my others is one of my niece that I recently took, because I had a new niece this year. She's now 7-8 months old. Because I was kind of touching into my new kind of style at the minute. So yeah, that one takes pride of place above the fire at the moment. So yeah, I adore that image as well at the moment. I think one of the things is maybe have a bit more self-belief, believing in myself a little bit more. And then the other side is definitely concentrated more on the business, because it took a while to build it and get it going. I just don't think you realise sometimes how important it is to respect it as a business and not just a hobby. If that's the way you want to go with it, yeah, you need to put a bit of respect into it and treat it like a business. I very much enjoy my work, because I'm not someone who's crazy busy. I don't want to be someone who's having 10-15 shoots a week. I'm quite happy with my balance, because I think it's important to have time for yourself as well. We need to look after ourselves. There's no point running yourself into the ground, working stupid hours till 2-3 in the morning, sat at your computer editing, up again at 6 o'clock the next day, getting ready for a shoot, because you're going to burn out. It's really important to look after yourself as well. And that's something that I've done much more this year. You're
looking great, by the way, I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I started to see a nutritionist in through the middle of last year, and it's made such a big difference to my energy levels, mentally as well. Just how much strain it can put on you mentally. So to look after yourself, just how much better you feel, and it's made a big impact in my life. I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that I've got friends all over the country, and even across here in Northern Ireland. So I very much, if I feel I need a couple of days away, I know I can pick up the phone and chat to a number of friends, and they'd be more than happy for me to come down, chill out and relax. And again, like I said earlier on, I'm right on the border of the Peak District. So if I ever feel I need to get out for a few hours, I'm in some stunning countryside. I can go for a little walk. I can just take in the views and really relax and switch off. It's really funny because I'm so laid back. I'm very much happy. I think it's very much if I take care of myself, everything else will take care of itself. So I'm very excited just to see where things are going to go this year. I'm a complete open book. I don't say I'm going to do this, that or the other. Things will come to me when they need to, and everything will happen for a reason.